Ruby Balaram. She is a visionary, a canine nutritionist, teacher, and of course, a dog mom. And she created Real Dog, the first air-dried dog treat and chew subscription service that is now changing the dog treat industry. Ruby is joining us right now from San Diego, California. Welcome, Ruby. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's wonderful to have you here and to learn more about what you do. And I understand you didn't grow up with dogs in your home, and you have a background in law and international trade, but you made the transition from that world into the world of air-dried dog treats. You gotta give us some background here.
Yeah, I know. That's one of the things that people are so surprised about. You didn't grow up with a dog, but in my late 20s, I started really thinking about what I was eating and changes in my own life and health. And at the same time, our family dog, my partner's dog, had gotten sick. We understood that he'd gotten cancer for the second time around, and it really made us think about what can we do to make his life better, because the vets told us that he only had 6 months left to live and it really wasn't looking good, and discouraged us really from finding an answer and more so keeping him comfortable. And that's just not news that you can give anyone, not a dog parent, not a child's parent. And we went down the rabbit hole of dog nutrition to figure out what we could do to reverse this cancer. We learned about feeding a raw diet, and we said, all right, it's time to make this change and make it immediately. And we did. And overnight, I'm telling you, overnight, this dog went from this old sort of grumpy, with no real, reason for living, dog into a dog that was like a newfound puppy that just loved food. And it was so convincing for me as someone who didn't grow up with a dog, that didn't have, as this lifelong passion to save all the dogs in the world, to say, there's something wrong with this industry. If real food is the answer to fixing so many metabolic diseases and ailments that we're seeing, why isn't it more popular? And so, I basically left my legal career as an international trade paralegal and packed up all of my things, moved 3,000 miles from Washington, D.C. to San Diego to start Real Dog. And here we are 8 years later.
Wow. Well, good for you, because it certainly takes courage, right? To jump and to do something like that. But when you have a passion for it, it only makes sense. So I'm curious, were there other local businesses that were selling raw dog food in your area?
At that time, I'm sure there were. At that time, there certainly weren't any subscription businesses that could ship to us. So we were living in Washington, D.C. Our family dog, his name was Atum. He was living with my partner's mom in San Diego, here where we are now. And we made the switch to the raw diet while she was out of town. And when she came back, I'm telling you, she was in tears. She was like, oh my goodness, I haven't seen him, running for at least the last 6 months. And he just had all this energy. And we had to go back to DC to our full-time lives. And she's like, how am I supposed to keep making this food? There's no way. And so as many businesses start out, we were trying to solve our own personal problem, which is, how can we get this fresh food delivered to us? We looked high and low, and I'm sure there were some local businesses, but there weren't any that we could find that could ship directly to her in San Diego, California. And so when we started thinking about, okay, if we were just a normal dog parent who wasn't dealing with something like trying to reverse cancer, right? Trying to make their dog live longer, how would we be able to find a service like ours? And that's sort of how the idea came about. We were like, okay, we need to get fresh dog food delivered because it literally saves lives. And, kind of fast forward, after we had come up with that idea and moved to San Diego to start Real Dog Box, we realized very quickly that shipping a frozen product was going to be really, really hard.
Sure.
Not just logistically in terms of packaging, but also in terms of entering a market where raw feeding wasn't all that popular. And we knew that, the convenience was key, getting something delivered. So you really didn't have to think about it. It shows up at your doorstep, you stick it in the refrigerator, and you know what to do. But after looking at some of the challenges that we were going to have logistically with packaging and installation, we ended up pivoting from raw dog food to air-dried treats and chews. And we essentially took the ingredients from our raw food recipes. It was our ancestral diet that we'd created. And we dried all of those individual ingredients into single ingredient air-dried treats and chews. And that's how we came up with our flagship treat and chew box.
Again, you saw a problem and you solved it, right?
Yep.
So let's talk about, where did you get the ingredients that you used in the beginning? And then of course, I know that had to really evolve as your business continued to grow.
Yeah. Well, we started off at our local grocery store. We wanted to make food the same way that you would prepare it for your own family, right?
Yeah.
It's nothing different. We don't talk about human food versus dog food. It's all just food. We're all eating the same ingredients. And so when we first started, what we were looking for were muscle meats, organ meats, and raw meaty bones. Those were really the primary components, along with later down the line, some seafood and some bits of fur and fiber.
Okay.
We started at our local grocery store. I went up to the meat section and I asked the butcher behind the counter, "Hey, do you got anything extra that you think that, I could use for my dog?" And we were just sort of testing our product out at that time. And sure enough, they did have a few things. And once we graduated to 100 pounds, which we were still buying from the grocery store, I'm like, this is really, really expensive. I've got to find a different way to do this. So we asked them, where do you get your meat from? And nobody wanted to tell us, honestly, at first, until we found a very, very kind small butcher shop where he's like, "Oh, this is where I get all my things." And he put me in contact with a distributor in Southern California who was able to set me up for different cuts of meat so that we could provide variety in our boxes. So basically we went from 10 pounds of meat to 100 pounds to 1,000. And now we're bringing in close to 25,000 pounds of raw supply into our kitchen every month.
Wow. Okay. And so you also you've been very busy. You created the first air-dried dog treat subscription service. So you have to also tell us about Real Dog Box service. How does this work? I think it's so cool that people have the option it shows up at their door every month, right? One more thing they don't have to think about.
Exactly. Like I said, we wanted to do three things. We wanted to make real food convenient, accessible, and affordable. And we're huge proponents of variety in the diet. Variety is the spice of life, but it's also the basis of good health and wellness. There's just no way to eat the same food every day, never mind it being an ultra-processed food, but you can't eat the same thing every day and expect to have a strong immune system and microbiome and be able to really fight off disease and live a healthy life without variety in your life. And so the way that our service works is every 4 weeks, we make a different combination of air-dried treats and chews and whole food supplements. And that is our lineup for 4 weeks. Okay. And we're able to ship that to our members and accommodate any dog preferences or needs they might have. So say this month's lineup has beef liver in it, but your dog maybe doesn't care for beef liver or has an intolerance to that particular protein. We can customize your box and automatically substitute that item for a different fresh air-dried treat or chew that we have in-house. So it's super customizable. You can skip your box anytime. We have a lot of folks traveling for the summertime, and so they're saying, "Can you ship my box to, my mom's house? I'm staying with her for a few weeks and bringing the dog." We're able to upgrade all of those things and make those changes on the fly.
Wow. So it's really tailored for the specific dog for that family. And Real Dog Box is also, congratulations, celebrating its 100th box cycle. I gotta think you have to be so proud.
I am. I am thrilled that we have made it this far, and we have so many members that have been with us for years. So we've got all of these exciting things happen as we celebrate our 100th box.
Yeah.
I was just at home this morning looking at our very first box that we ever made, and we saved it from 8 years ago. Yeah, so we're getting ready to do this big comparison. We've been doing live giveaways and trivias every week. We've got this mystery box coming out this week, which is really exciting. People have no idea what's going to be in it, but they're so excited to be able to get some of these exciting products that we've been working on in the back end. And we're also giving back to all of our loyal members that have been with us in the form of real dog coins. So for every month that they've been with us, we give them a coin that they can use towards their box, towards our secret shop, and as well as towards our nutrition courses that we offer on the Feed Real Institute.
Wow. I bet you would have never guessed that you would know so much about all of this, right? From your background to here. I mean, it's amazing.
No, not at all. And so circling back to your very first question, which is you didn't grow up with a dog. Like, how did you get here? I honestly can't imagine my life playing out any differently. I've learned so much. And now, we've got our Anatolian Shepherd, who we adopted around the same time we started Real Dog Box. His name's Icon, and he's just turning 8 years old, and he is the love of my life. So I just can't imagine not taking this path.
Right. And you also dabble in the tech world as well. So you created a really one-of-a-kind feeding calculator that is specific for dogs. Tell us a bit about why this was also so important to you.
Sure. Well, we are a food tech company. We're an online dog wellness company, and that is how we're able to tailor so many of our food services to each individual dog. And part of how our Feed Real Institute came about, which is our educational arm, was we really grew Real Dog Box through our educational type of teachings. We wanted people to know why they were feeding, what they were feeding. You're not just taking this treat out and giving it to your dog because they like it. There's some really important nutritional benefits to it. And what we wanted to do was take all of that research that we had gathered over the last almost decade and put it in one place for our members to access. And that's how we created the Feed Real Institute. And we wanted to create this resource that would help dog parents start feeding real food. And that's really what grew our feeding calculator. So we wanted to make it easy, make it simple. You see all of these spreadsheets flying around of people saying, if you don't have all of these ingredients measured to the milligram, then something terrible is going to happen to your dog. And frankly, we don't eat like that. We don't feed ourselves from spreadsheets. And so, it's just not feasible to have to do that with our own dogs.
Right.
So we created the Feed Real calculator, which is super simple to use. It's the simplest food calculator out there. All you do is enter your dog's weight, their age, their activity level, and based on the ingredients that you have accessible to you at your local grocery store or Asian or Latino market, you can figure out what your daily meal plan is and get a shopping list sent to you. So it's really easy. When you're going out to do your own grocery shopping for yourself, you pick up all the things that you need for your dog's food as well.
Very cool. And these nutrition courses that you've touched on, these are available to veterinarians, of course, but general public too. You want to make this something that's accessible to anyone.
100%.
Good.
We actually have 2 different courses hosted on the Feed Real Institute. One that was created specifically for dog parents. Someone who is busy and they want to feed real food. However, they don't want to go out and buy pre-made because it's expensive to do so. Anytime you're doing something that someone else prepares that food for you. So the dog parent course is really designed for everyday dog owners to be able to get some basic nutritional knowledge under their belt so they can confidently make food for their own dogs. And then the other course is our professional nutrition course, which very recently was approved for continuing education credits for veterinarians and veterinary staff and professionals.
Congratulations. That's huge.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
It's huge news because, for the last few decades, even though there is a small sector of dog owners that are feeding a fresh food diet, most of them feel that they don't have the support from their veterinarians to be able to feed this fresh food. And that, without going too far into the details, that's simply because that's what veterinarians are taught in school.
Right.
They're taught to feed a specific processed food from perhaps a company that helped fund their school. And they just know what they know about dog nutrition and nothing really more than that. In fact, most veterinary schools, particularly in the United States, have only one class on nutrition, and it covers all small animals. It also covers livestock as well. So feeding horses, feeding cows, feeding pigs, feeding cats, feeding dogs. And there's very few courses that are focused specifically on canine nutrition. And so we created that second professional certification course so that veterinarians could get those extra credits and learn about dog nutrition so that they could better support their clients that do want to feed a fresh food diet.
Oh, absolutely. And, sometimes you have people who can be resistant to change, right? They say, well, I've been using traditional dried food for years. I'm not interested. So what do you say to people who might have those ideas?
Lately, what I think has been really working for us and our team in conversations with prospective clients that might want to switch over, I like to make parallels to human food. And I'll say things like, if feeding or eating a kibble or processed food was so good, how come we're not doing that for ourselves? So I kind of like to start there. And it can be very intimidating. So other things that I like to suggest is, if you can't make a full transition, just start adding a little bit of fresh food. See if your dog likes it. See if you start to see any changes in their body or in their behavior, right? Because a lot of behavior is linked to our gut and microbiome. And maybe once they start seeing some of those changes, they'll say, I think my dog is really thriving off of fresh, real food, and start to consider making a full transition.
Yeah, you just encourage them to give it a try for themselves and see the difference, right? Yeah. So talking about dog obesity, this is a big issue with so many pet owners. What advice do you have for dog moms out there if they've got maybe, a pup who's on the pudgy side?
Well, I think it's funny that you say that because I think society is really used to seeing dogs overweight and not questioning it.
Interesting. Right.
Yes. And unfortunately, dogs are the most diverse species on the planet. So there isn't really like a chart or a guideline that you can reference, right?
Okay.
Maybe a smaller dog, what is that category? Somewhere between 10 and 25 pounds. Well, is it 10 pounds or is it 25 pounds, right? There's a huge range for them to fall into. So what I like to encourage people to do is use a body conditioning score chart where they can see my dog is overweight if we can't feel the last two ribs right on his side. There's a really great guideline where we like to use our hand and figure out when we're touching the side of their ribs, if it feels fleshy like this, they're slightly overweight. On this side, if it feels a little bit too bony, they're slightly underweight. And so you want it to be right on this side, which isn't really too soft, but there's got a little bit of give to it, and it's tense. And that's about where you want your dog's weight to be or body condition score to be.
That is a great very visual, right? Very a visual reminder for us. That's interesting.
Right. Yeah. And just a reminder for dog moms, anytime you're giving treats, sometimes that's our language of love,
Uh-huh.
right? That's the way that we take care of our family and our dogs in particular. Keep in mind that everything that you give them is part of their daily food intake. And if we are very conscious about those little treats, not being too high in carbs or in sugars or in fats,
Mhm.
and we're keeping in mind that everything that we feed throughout the day is going towards how much energy they need and need to burn off, we can probably cut down a little bit on all of those areas and feed foods that their bodies are made to absorb and digest. That means no high carbs, no sugars, no rice or pastas, things like that. Try to keep those things, the same things that we know might, add a little extra to the side. We don't want that for our dogs, and stick to lean meats, air dried options that don't have any other fillers or preservatives in them. And really anything healthy that you consider for yourself that's in your refrigerator, you can add that and share that with your dog.
Okay, Ruby, this information is fantastic. Where should our viewers go then to find more information? I know you have a website and social media.
Yeah. Well, our website is real.dog. Super easy to remember.
Mhm.
All of our social media handles are at RealDogBox. On Instagram, you can find the majority of our live giveaways, prizes, and promos. We tend to do a lot of freebies and educational tips over there. But Facebook is also another place where you can have a really strong conversation with us. We host our Feed Real Canine Nutrition Support group there. So if you're ready to make that switch to a fresh food diet and you have questions or you don't know where to start, head over to Facebook and find us there.
Perfect. Well, we have been talking here with Ruby Balaram, co-founder of the Real Dog Box, celebrating its 100th box cycle. She's joined us from San Diego, California. Ruby, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing all this important knowledge.
Thanks again for having me.
Thanks so much for watching this Dog Mom News clip. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more awesome and informative Dog Mom News content. And while you're at it, ring the bell so that you can find out about more content in real time. And be sure to join us Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our live show. You don't want to miss it. Thanks for watching, everyone.